is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank all of our testifiers today. What patience you have shown for a very long day with a very difficult topic, but we really appreciate your personal experience, your expertise, and the value you bring to this conversation. So thank you. Ms. Pinheiro, I would like to particularly thank you for your personal story and for the advocacy that you bring and the courage that you show. You know, in reflecting on SB 8, and I told you this, I'm reminded of a story that I'm often reminded of, which is the story of my mother-in-law, Joan Canaan. She was the youngest of 6 children growing up in 1930s Scranton. Her mother became pregnant with a 7th child, and the doctors discovered that the child would be stillborn, and they also knew that the mother would likely die in childbirth. But it was the 1930s. It was Scranton. It was a Catholic community. And so her family did not have a choice. The choice was with the government and with the church. Maybe the outcome would have been the same. Perhaps she would have chosen to go forward with that pregnancy. We don't know. But we will never know because she and her family had no choice. The baby was stillborn, and Joan's mother died in labor, orphaning 6 young children. May we never go back to that. This was the 1930s, some 90 years ago, and yet we are still discussing the merits or the right of a woman to choose. While we should all be alarmed at Texas's SB 8, the bill follows a long list of restrictions in Texas. In fact, before this de facto ban, Texas had enacted 26 abortion restrictions to a woman's right to choose. These restrictions or rules on abortions include, but not limited to, state-mandated counseling to discourage women from having an abortion, a 24-hour waiting period, banning telehealth, requiring women to physically visit their healthcare provider, and due to waiting periods and scheduling, we know the delays that causes, prevention of health insurance, and also, as the doctor told us, the offering of bad information to patients. We can no longer say Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. So, Dr. Moyadi, could you elaborate on the impact some of these barriers have had on women in your practice? And I'd like to pick up on a question that my friend and colleague asked you. Can you expand on some of the complications, perhaps like the one I told you about my mother-in-law's mom, some of the complications that might lead a doctor to discuss the option of abortion even when a pregnancy is wanted?
Thank you so much for allowing me to continue. So yes, at any point in pregnancy, but for example, at 15 weeks, someone's bag of water can break. When that happens, there's no intervention that can help continue that pregnancy. There's no intervention that can assure life for that pregnancy. And so the recommendation at that point is delivery or a procedure, an abortion, to prevent death in that person. But this law, SB 8, prevents us from being able to do that. And we have to actually wait until the person is critically ill before we can intervene. So that situation comes up quite a bit where someone has a pregnancy complication and a very highly desired pregnancy, but the bag of water breaks, or they start hemorrhaging or bleeding very heavily and we need to intervene. There are also conditions that the fetus, the pregnancy itself, can develop that actually mirror a condition in the pregnant person. So if a fetus develops severe what's called hydrops or takes on fluid in its body, there's a condition called mirror syndrome, and that can happen in the pregnant person too and cause death in them as well. And so these are just a few examples, but there are literally hundreds and thousands of things that can go wrong during pregnancy. And so every pregnant person needs the option, the availability to swift expert abortion care to save their lives when they need it.
Did any patient ever come to you saying, I'd like an abortion because it's cool?
Never.
I wouldn't think so. It's quite
I find
serious.
it incredibly insulting to hear that about women, but particularly about Black women. I trust Black women to make the best decisions for their families, and that includes abortion care.
And I have no time left. in any event, I would love to have had more conversation with you, Professor. I apologize. I'll submit my question to you privately.